Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Healing Traditions. Today, joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program is a gentleman who spent more than 30 years studying many healing traditions from around the world, which include pre-Celtic, Druidic traditions as well, which have opened and empowered him as a healer. And as he has lived and worked in Belfast, Northern Ireland, working with groups and individuals, ex-paramilitaries and survivors of trauma. He has also worked in dozens of other countries, including Israel, Palestine, and he's also worked with His Holiness the Dalai Lama of Tibet. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today is global healer, Celtic mystic, spiritual teacher, and metaphysicist, Ger Lyons. Ger, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me on. It's great to chat to you.
Now, this alleged is a very ancient work that you work with here. Tell us more about this in detail, if you could, for our listeners, so they can get a better understanding of what kind of ancient healing work we're talking about here.
Sure. The healing work, the basis and core of it, really, it comes from a very, very old Celtic tradition that we've been steeped in here in Ireland for, centuries, generations, and really thousands of years. It goes way, way back. There's an old form of invocation, or what modern religions would refer to as prayer, that's known as call and response, where everybody speaks together and communicates with the field of consciousness, with life, with the intelligence, the divine intelligence of nature, if you like, that runs through all life. And in doing so, we can awaken and bring to life ourselves, our real selves, our deepest selves, and by that reaching higher and going deeper into our, finding a real purpose and a real power and passion for living that is beyond the way we've been programmed and, kind of mainstream life has conditioned us, So the healing, it has an ancient source, but it's very simple. It's very powerful, but it's a very simple process.
Now, it's pretty fascinating because your healing diversity is pretty amazing here in what you've studied around the world here. And I was kind of curious about your lineage as well as your teachers and how you became influenced by the people that came into your life.
Sure, yeah. My lineage, I have, two bloodlines like everybody. One is going back to a pre-Celtic race of people known as the Tuatha. My paternal lineage, my dad's line, carried some old practices that are no longer in kind of mainstream reality, but they are mainstream life, but they're still alive. There's a few families that still have them alive in our country, on our island. So my dad's lineage goes back a long way to this race of people that carried a very, very strong, very potent medicine tradition that is accessible and that we're now trying to share pretty much with as many people as possible. It's an old pre-Christian polytheistic tradition of Celtic nature. It's kind of maybe what you could see in many countries and many cultures in the world today as indigenous and Aboriginal tradition, but it's coming from here. Even though we're kind of white modern people, but we're kind of more like red-haired natives, if you like, in a way, that carry a very deep and very ancient tradition that's still intact. It's still available, it's still accessible, it's in our bones, in our blood, and the traditions and ceremonies and rituals are still here. It's not common. Some people refer to it as a Druidic tradition or a pagan tradition or a pre-Christian tradition or a polytheistic tradition, it doesn't really matter what we refer to it as. The important thing is that it works for people. There's strong, potent medicine in it, and it gives people a very deep sense of connection to nature and all things in all life, which is a really beautiful spiritual awakening that we can share with people. Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand that you conduct workshops. Tell us more about that, what people can expect to experience if they went to one.
Sure. So the workshops are, they're geared for basically to help people as much as possible with any kind of, difficulty, problems, challenges, diseases, sicknesses, anything, any kind of, all kinds of stuff. People from all walks of life, from very serious, life-threatening conditions to people who just want to explore and discover their path in spirituality and metaphysics or anything like that, or just awaken more into a deeper sense of purpose in life, and exploring spirituality. So the workshops are completely open to everybody, and it's run in a way that it brings us as fast as possible and as deep as possible into a very profound sense of a much deeper sense of self. What I mean by that is people come and we sit in a circle, as is the ancient tradition in ceremony, and we use music and sound and meditation, and then go deep into a process of invocation. There's lots of different ways and practices and techniques that we use that's incorporated into the whole thing, but it's very kind of streamlined and seamless in its flow. So it's a very beautiful process, but it's very potent as well. It's very, very strong. And then we go around and find out from everybody what's going on, what they would like to work on or experience or talk about, or what they would like to explore for the week or the weekend, however long they're coming. And then we launch into a very deep and profound sense of prayer, if you like, or invocation with this call and response practice, which becomes like a chant, and it releases and unravels lots of trauma. There's lots of trauma release, lots of dead energy, old energy, stagnant energy, and it unravels the core origins of sickness and disease and, old mindsets and belief systems that sometimes sabotage us and get us into trouble in our lives, and repetitive patterns, addictive patterns, all this kind of stuff. So it all surfaces, it gets exposed, and then we work through it consciously. There's an aspect of transpersonal psychology in it as well, where we're communicating with people. But basically, the fundamental energy is a very strong and very ancient spiritual energy where we reach up and connect with the divine in a very deep sense and action of prayer, and there's a powerful energy comes through from that does the healing work. So, as any healer will tell you, we're not actually doing it. We facilitate the process. It comes to us, but the whole idea is that we're facilitating a process where people can connect and plug in and hook up to their own sovereign, independent sense of their highest self, their most spiritual self, where they can take that at home and do the same thing at home pretty much immediately as soon as they leave the workshop. So we want to empower people, to give them as much as we can, and then so they can take that home and share that power and share the potency and the ability to do this with their family, and use it for their kids, their family, and their community, and basically empower as many people as we can. That's the whole deal here. That's the whole purpose and focus, and that's been my vision for many, many years.
Now, you say that it's very possible for people who suffer from trauma, perhaps even severe trauma, to be able to heal, that you found the deep understanding of how the body deals with that and how it's possible to heal. And this comes from your own experience where you suffered from an extreme trauma that lasted for pretty close to 4 years, where apparently there was a point that even death would have been something that you would have welcomed at one point. And I know there are many people out there, especially returning veterans, that I'm sure feel this way, and so for that to be a possibility to be able to heal, that you've been through this, you really walk your talk, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's, a lot of my life experience, Daniel, has led me to a very deep understanding and a lot of a very deep sense of what it is that that makes us tick, what it is that makes us alive, and what it is that makes us makes people who are traumatized or people who get sick. Like what is that? We can study it in textbooks and we can do PhDs on all kinds of studies and tests, but I think what seems to have been my path, which has been fantastic. There's been many ups and many downs and many experiences, which has been pretty intense. That I wouldn't recommend it, but it seems to, that's the way it seems to have been, that it's given me first-hand not just knowledge but experience of how we can get damaged and traumatized, and some people coming back from service or have been brutalized, in both in their minds and their emotions and their physical body, and it's very, 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 very difficult to get through that or accept it or get around it and live with it. And from my own experiences, I really feel this is why I'm so passionate about and feel a great importance for getting this work out there, because I know that it's possible to heal many things that many people think is impossible. And I know that many people have gone to, through the medical systems and psychiatry and drugs and, using what everything that the mainstream medicine and therapies can give us, but there is a deeper potential and there's a higher possibilities to work through, all kinds of horrific stuff that people are dealing with. And I really feel very strongly about sharing this, because I know that it's possible, because I've been through a lot myself. I was electrocuted and had all kinds of horrible things happen in really, really difficult circumstances and situations back home here, and back in the day many years ago. And I came from having a very, very, very damaged, an extremely damaged body and mind and emotions, to over years and painstaking patience and exploration and discovery of healing myself, basically, and figuring out how it works. First of all, how the trauma and damage, like what it does in the body, and how our bodies have incredible survival mechanisms and techniques, or maybe a better word would be like systems that kick in to pretty much just keep us alive, And I've been through a whole range of these things where the body has survived against all the odds, and it's quite extraordinary how we can do that. And many people coming back from service, and many people go through all kinds of stuff. I mean, just regular people going through cancers and all kinds of things will tell you the same thing. That some people will die from different things, and some people will survive through it. And what I've been really interested in is how we can survive, and then when we have survived, not only that, but how can we actually turn the whole thing around and thrive and heal it. And like from my own work and patience, and just pretty much not taking no for an answer from life, I've managed somehow to, explore different ways of. It's driven me to the depths of beyond what I ever imagined, into the deepest darkness, in order to realize a very, very high aspect of light that we can bring through and that we can use and access and ask, invoke and request from the divine, from the field, and it just happens. It happens. And one of the most important things that's so simple, is that I've realized is that when we ask life, when we ask God, when we ask the universe, or whatever you want to call the divine intelligence that's created this whole project called life, when we ask, it does respond. And what a lot of people seem to fail to do or fail to understand is they don't ask. Yeah? And if we sit in a deep sense of self and ask for what we need, and then follow the guidance, take action on whatever it is that we're guided to do, and just trust it, and that's basically what I've done, is just through trial and error, many trials and many errors, and I've realized that a lot of the negative elements or experiences that I've been through have been just as much guidance and direction for me as the positive stuff. It's all win-win at the end of the day. It's all guiding us to somewhere better ultimately. So really, we can't make any mistakes. It's all good.
Now, Ger, what would you say from your experience of trauma that you learned from it that you'd feel that maybe many people don't understand?
I think, one of the simplest teachings, Daniel, that came out of that for me is to know and to realize and to trust that, it's an old spiritual teaching going way back from many prophets and many teachings, which is basically, this too shall pass. Everything changes. And when you're in the middle of hell, when you're in a pit of hell and everything is just wrong and there's, you're filled with pain, it's very, very difficult to see anything positive. It's very difficult to even want to survive, want to try and even have the motivation to try and crawl out of it somehow, or try and shake it off, and it's impossible sometimes, very often, to shake anything off or crawl out of it because it's inside, right? So, but one of the things that was really important for me through that whole thing was to just trust, right? Trust that if I do make it through this, that things are going to change, they are going to get better, they are going to, everything has to change, even if it's death, even if it's, okay, it's time up here, game over, it's time to move on, and like Shakespeare said, cast off the mortal coil, right? But even if it's that, it's going to change, but we can turn it around and change it and survive, right? So I think one of the things that lays heavy on when we're in a lot of pain is when we think that this is it, right? When we think that there's no potential, there's no possibilities out of this, and that nothing is going to change. It's going to be like this forever. It's going to be like this for the rest of our lives, and it's not. It's not. And the mind can come in and sabotage us very quickly and very often, with thinking these things and thinking going negative and not even negative, but just thinking like just this is it, right? And projecting that into the future instead of being open to the possibilities that things can change, miracles can happen. There is divine intervention. Divine intervention happens all the time. The field opens up, and a doorway can appear somewhere where it looks like a wall, looks like you've been bashing your head off a brick wall, and the divine, like the whole field of creation, the field of existence is a fluid, flexible, and mobile thing that is constantly changing, constantly in flux. And if we can keep that in mind, I think it really helped me, to focus on the possibilities instead of sitting in despair and sense of hopelessness and helplessness. It's to focus on what is possible, to be able, even though we see a wall, to trust and focus that there's always a way. There's always a way out of here. That's and it's a very simple teaching, and many people know this, but it's really one of the things that kept me alive and kept me going through and kept me hoping and keep focusing on the possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us about the role of nature and how it plays into the work that you do in people's lives.
Yeah, the law of nature. Nature has many laws, and I think one of the most important things with nature is to realize, and one of the reasons that we're in such a mess with climate change and global warming and all this, and pollution all over the world and everything that's going on, is that we have, as a race generally, and not everyone on the planet is sabotaged with that. There's still a lot of indigenous tribes still live as nature, but we have seemed to have disconnected and separated ourselves, and no longer living with the planet, no longer living with each other, no longer living with life, but in some other kind of disjointed version of things where we go out and our main focus is buying products that nobody really needs and improving everything, and we buy an expensive car and we get an expensive membership to the gym, and then we drive our expensive car to the gym and we get on a walking machine for an hour in the gym, and after spending all this money for a car and a membership, instead of just going for a walk, right? And I mean, things like that are kind of, it's like part of the modern insanity, So one of the things this work does is it brings us back to our own inherent nature and our own inherent sense of self, which is innately connected and exists as part of nature itself, So when we come to that realization that we're not connected to nature, we exist as part of nature, this is quite a profound realization for many people. And when we have that realization, it does shift and change everything. Our values and our principles and our conditioning that we've lived by tends to, anything that no longer serves us tends to fall away, and we're left with a very deep and very strong, powerful force, which is a force of nature, which is basically inherently who we are. So it's like, we have some of our old poets from our old tradition here say many things about that, in the old Celtic teachings about living as and being and working as nature, not doing something, living in somewhere and then going for a walk in nature. We have this split going on, which is part of how we have split from the whole consciousness, the greater picture and the consciousness of the whole planet. So when we come back to that, it's inevitable that our life changes pretty much dramatically for many people. For some people, it's small little changes, and so it's different for everyone.
I also know that when a person heals themselves, if they reach out to help others heal, that this helps as well, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this is a beautiful kind of side effect or knock-on effect where when we feel empowered, to be able to heal ourselves and go through our own material and it gives us a very expanded version of life, a very expanded version of the possibilities of how we can live, and that is, it's magnetic, and it's kind of like an experience of divine rapture, where you just fall in love with God, you fall in love with life and with what created all of us, and that sense of love and sense of connectedness and sense of that real true sense of who we are, you just kind of naturally want to share it. You just want to share it with as many people as possible. It's kind of a natural way and side effect. And when we kind of come back into alignment with our own nature, there's a very easy way to pass that on. It's very simple. It's very simple, and this is one of the beauties of the work, is that it's not complex. It's not. We don't have to sit down and study 12 books and get 4 PhDs on anything. Which there's nothing wrong with that and all this beautiful knowledge that people get. But this work, it's very simple, but yet at the same time it drives a very powerful engine. It's like getting a key for a new powerful car that is, the key doesn't look like much. It's very simple, just a little piece of metal. But the car may have a very powerful engine inside it. And the work that we do here and for empowering people and sharing with people to pass it on, it's like passing on keys to ourselves in a way, if you like, to access this connection with the divine and with life and with the field where we can use this energy to do quite extraordinary things sometimes, and everybody has this ability. So we can pass these keys on, these simple keys onto pretty much anybody who wants to, and many people won't, just simply won't be interested. It's just not their thing, which is fine. Many people, if they do feel a calling, or if they do feel a resonance with the work and with the energy, then they often get a very, very powerful impulse, or the sense of urgency, or sense of a mission, a mission to do something with this. Like there's a purpose building up inside me like a volcano, and it's just got to create something. So it's a beautiful kind of side effect to the work to work it on yourself, is when you do clear a lot of the material that doesn't really serve us. It opens up this huge powerful force of nature, like a volcanic volcano in a good way, obviously, like a volcanic power that carries potent medicine and ancient medicine that we all have in our bones and in our blood. But so in a way, it's just remembering it and accessing the awakening of that medicine inside each one of us.
It's also fascinating, Ger, and I was wondering, do you have a website where listeners can find out more about your work and anything upcoming?
Yeah, sure. We have a website. It's www.gerlyons.net. So GERLYONS.net. It's just my name, pretty much. And if anybody's interested in the opportunity, they can just get on that website and get all the details on that.
Well, very good. Well, Ger, thank you for taking the time to share this wonderful ancient work and to let people know that are listening today that it's all within us. It's just a matter of being able to open that up and being able to express it as well. And I want to thank you for taking the time to join us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Great. Thank you very much, Daniel. Really good to chat with you, and we'll talk to you soon sometime. Thank you.
You betcha. We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for joining us. You can also discover more at beyond50radio.com. The number 50 is part of the website address, beyond50radio.com. Sign up for our free weekly e-news updates as well. You can also follow us on Twitter at Beyond50Radio as well as Facebook. Beyond 50 Radio is our fan page there. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for joining us. This is the Beyond 50 Radio program. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, live your day past halfway.